Hey there, it's been a while since we just spent a video talking about completely random stuff. Okay, well not completely random, as today I want to have a bit of a focus on final smashes, but it'll still be a grab bag of miscellaneous nonsense as usual. Starting off is something I saw from a channel called Mita regarding Dark Samus's final smash. A lot of final smashes will just have the user stay in place when they're activated, if not just teleporting them somewhere different. And yes, sorry, but we're using the ball sack stage for this section, okay? Anyway, some final smashes, like the two Samuses, give them a little bit of gravity during its activation and use, meaning you can use it really close to a platform and have it to where you're airborne during the activation, but grounded afterwards. And the thing is, I guess because you're technically updating your positioning with this, if you're inputting the opposite direction, you can actually turn around your final smash, which only happens once you land. It can be tricky to line up, but it's actually a huge bait if the opponent sees you starting it the wrong way, then bam, you're getting owned. It'd be even cooler if this could happen in the middle of using the attack, but unfortunately landing while you're blasting away doesn't let you change the direction any. Now, I tested every single final smash that could have fit the bill, but none of them have the same gravity effect during startup or anything. And I tried to see if I could maybe use the pushback from, say, Mario's final smash to maybe push him onto a platform and accomplish the same thing, but still nothing I did really affected the move in any way. So we've got nothing to work with, except for me Gunner, kinda. But unfortunately I still couldn't get the tech to happen with them. When they eventually land on the platform, they can't be manipulated in any way. Oh well. Speaking of manipulating things, normally when you change someone's size and then they use a final smash, they'll revert back to their normal size upon activation. But as we've talked about before, if you play in custom smash, they'll end up using their attack in whatever size setting you've made, being the only way to see these moves used in bigger or smaller ways. This is really fun to pair with the ice climbers. As brought up by Alex on my Discord, the way this big old iceberg handles size is really funny. Let's step back from custom smash for a bit and just look at it normally. The iceberg itself actually has its size change depending on how big the stage is. So if we're on a baby park small stage like WarioWare Inc., the iceberg still covers most of the stage, but it's not really that big compared to the characters. But going bigger to Newport City, and the scale starts to become a bit more noticeable. I really love seeing it on Great Cave Offensive too. It really starts to give Raighne a run for their money with how much coverage it offers. Now earlier I compared the size to the characters, but there's actually an even better comparison to make. The polar bear. If you've never noticed it before, this final smash has a bear rotating around, which is actually its own unique hitbox that deals some pretty decent damage. And on the WarioWare stage, the bear was a pretty decent size, being very easy to get hit by, and standing out from the iceberg quite a bit. But on Great Cave Offensive, I was legitimately struggling to reach its hitbox. This might sound weird, in both cases the bear is around the same size compared to the characters, but because the iceberg around it grew to such extreme lengths, that hitbox basically overrode the polar bears. Oh yeah, also the condor was there. Its actual size didn't change, but its positioning did, as it's meant to stay by the peak of the iceberg. This led to it being placed off-screen on Great Cave Offensive, given how the scale all works. You can't really see it normally, but you can still hitch a ride, and you'll see it briefly once the final smash ends. So basically there's two main parts to pay attention to with this final smash. The iceberg, whose size is dependent on the stage, and the polar bear, whose size is dependent on the ice climbers. You can see where I'm going with this now. If you have a size change from custom smash when you use the ice climber's final smash, the iceberg will be whatever size it should be from the stage, but the polar bear will have changed. We can go to either extreme for this. Decrease our size and use the attack on Great Cave Offensive to get a microscopic polar bear. We need to appreciate just how teensy tiny this creature became. I wish I could use the in-game camera during final smashes, but these pixels will have to do. Or on the flip side, we can increase our size, use it on WarioWare Inc., and now the polar bear is gigantic relative to everything else. This makes me really wish we had access to a gigabig custom smash mode or something, so that the bear could eclipse all else, but I'm still a fan of this. And it's in this setting that we can tell that the condor's size doesn't really change with any of these other factors. By the way, like we've talked about before in the channel, Ice Climber's final smash will actually stick around even if you're KO'd after activating it. The same thing is true for piranha plants, though it's generally a lot harder to set up and is a bit shorter. Plus, with both of these final smashes, you can manually control them a bit, mostly moving them either left or right. It's a bit more important with PD Piranha than the iceberg, but it can help either way. So what's funny is that, in the time between when you're a very not alive dead corpse and when you're respawning, you can actually still control these final smashes, which might make you wonder, what if you don't respawn? Even if it was your last stock and you're out of the race, the attacks will still play out in their full duration, and any KOs they net will actually go in your favor. And even when the ice climbers are actually dead in real life, you can still control the iceberg's movement for those short few seconds after. And yeah, same thing for Piranha Plant. You've got to die like immediately after spawning in PD Piranha, or else there's not really enough time to do anything, which is why I equipped the insta-drop spirit for this. But it does work, so that's all pretty neat. What's also neat is how Final Smashes function with spirits, as brought up by Slimeade on my Discord. Here's the groundwork for the topic. Giving both characters a spirit set with equal attack and defense will essentially cancel out the effect of the spirit. For example, forward air here does 9.6%, forward smash deals 15.6%, and forward tilt deals 10.8%. And when the spirit set is equipped onto each player, the damage all around the board is identical to before. You might be pretty confused given how these numbers are not equal, and that's because defense is technically more effective than attack by 1.5 times. If we try a spirit where the numbers are identical, the damage is actually slightly lower than normal. So you need the attack to be 1.5 times more than the defense in order for things to actually balance out, which we actually get with our good old pal Rayquaza here. Honestly, it's kind of fitting for it to be balanced between attack and defense, given that it's basically the mediator between Kyogre and Groudon. But anyways, the idea is that with this setup, your damage output is the same as before, until you use a Final Smash. Marths normally deal 72%, Jesus Christ, but with the spirits, it goes down dramatically to 50.5%. So it's at around 0.7 times their normal power. If you're curious, a similar system is in place with items, giving them a relatively weaker buff. Be it swinging a battering item or shooting a gun, all of them are 0.75 times the original strength. Though it seems throwing items are even lower, at 0.69 times the strength. Overall though, a notable nerf. And to round out the spirit trivia, a niche buff that the attack stat gives characters is an increase to their smash attack charge speed, which I actually never knew about before, because I don't really care about spirits. So even though the damage output here is the same without the spirits, the way they work still makes this not quite the same as a normal one-on-one. And obviously the jump boost Rayquaza comes with is also different, but whatever, okay? Speaking of being okay, Raptor had an awesome comment about Ryu's Final Smash. As it turns out, if you use Ryu's Shin Shoryuken while you're on a rolling crate, you'll actually stay on it as it rides off into the sunset, and the attack somehow still works. Doing all this can show us two things. For one, when it's over, Ryu gets put into freefall, a normal feature of this Final Smash as it's mimicking normal Shoryuken, in case you didn't know that. And also when the camera isn't fixed, the zoom will stay in one spot per hit, even though you're actually moving out of the way, which is pretty funny. If you start the Final Smash right as the crate moves from an outside source, you'll go into this failed animation, which actually does have its own hitbox that could hit other opponents. Yes, this is the same third variant fail-safe version of the Final Smash that I've gone over in the past. The very distant past. Man, I'm gonna die one day, aren't I? More importantly, I'm actually not sure why the prompt specifies this Final Smash when it actually works for quite a few others, and can have some really funny results. Granted, yeah, it doesn't work for a lot of the Final Smashes, and this list includes a lot more than you might expect, which I'll be showing on screen while I talk because I want to retain your attention for as long as I possibly can. Here, look, here. And for a handful of Final Smashes, the effect is basically just getting yourself killed during the attack. Which, yes, is pretty funny. I like Villagers, where nothing happens for the duration of the move, but the moment it's over, you're totally launched into the blast zone. I love that. But here's some examples I really love. The Samuses come back again, being able to push their cart forwards while they shoot the laser, which technically doesn't do much to increase their range given how far its reach already was, but it's still something. And I also really love Jigglypuffs, where you get shot super quickly to the side blast zone, finish out the animation, then once it's over, you just instantly die. Bringing both of these attacks to a bigger stage can be fun. Samuses doesn't really change that much with verticality, as since it turns out, the multi-hits of the laser will just keep it hovering. A Jigglypuff gets a lot more distance, but given the speed and girth of everything, you don't really change much here. But like, it's still an improvement over normal. I really like this mobile version more, which technically includes loot boxes too, if you think about it. Oh, another one is Link, who stays on the crate while aiming his shot. Doesn't do much normally, but on a big stage, you can line up a pretty cool drive-by snipe that I'm a fan of. Next prompt is from Fade about Duck Hunt's Final Smash. A mechanic for most Final Smashes is that, after they're all done, your character will do a very short hop afterwards. This can be used to give yourself more recovery height in a pinch, but otherwise doesn't really do much. However, with Duck Hunt's up special, you can use attacks out of it, and this includes your Final Smash. And as it turns out, if you use your Final Smash out of it, instead of doing that little hop, you'll actually just be put into freefall immediately. A side effect of this is that the little hop is actually stored within Duck Hunt. And the way it gets unleashed is mostly by going from a grounded state to an aerial one, without jumping. So walking off the ledge, or a platform, or Well, that's mostly it from what I tested, though this property does also persist through death. If you just leave the angel platform normally, you'll burn it instantly like that, but if you get off by using an attack or something, it'll stay stored. Now, is this useful or anything? No, of course not. What? Especially when it's compared to like the infinite hover glitch that you can do by spamming down special after missing the final smash. There's not really much that can top that one, as much as it kinda sucks to do. I tried as many other characters as I could think of, you know, ones where you can use their final smash out of their up specials or anything, but none of them had the right combination of sauce needed to get the same thing to happen, likely in part because their up specials don't put them into freefall after. And if you're curious about Ryu, no, it didn't happen for him either. So I guess Duck Hunt's final smash is just uniquely broken, really being the only thing it has going for it otherwise. Speaking of Duck Hunt's up special, Fade also had a prompt about how it interacts with water. That is, if you use your up special, cancel it with any move so that you don't enter freefall, and then land in the water, you actually lose access to all of your moves. Your double jump, all attacks, dodging, the only thing you can do is jump once, and move a bit in either direction. So it's almost like you're retaining the helpless properties of freefall while not being in it, implying that the water doesn't fully override it, at least so long as you didn't start the freefall animation beforehand. We can also prove this by wall jumping, which is still somehow possible, as when you do this, Duck Hunt will briefly, finally be put into freefall as they should, which will end up resetting it. It also of course gets reset if you land on the ground again, or if you get hit at all, just like how freefall works. Also, for some reason, I found that sometimes after I jumped, Duck Hunt will just randomly go into freefall, which again resets the glitch. I have no idea why this sometimes happened, as I couldn't replicate it intentionally, but that's just a thing. So all of this is less of a tech and more of a warning. If you ever land in water as Duck Hunt like this, that'll be why you can't use most of your moves. Speaking of warnings, the last thing from today is also from Alex on my Discord regarding Greninja on Mishima Dojo. Greninja's final smash can normally KO Kazuya a little under 50% in this setting. It's not too bad. However, if used on Mishima Dojo, it won't KO him even at double the damage threshold, making it insanely weak in comparison. The reason is due to the walls that you have to break through in order to actually reach any blast zone. For some reason, during the final smash, the walls will stay loaded up until the full animation ends. So even though Kazuya actually broke it here, he's still not able to move past it until much later, and in this time, a lot of the knockback he received is dwindling. So of course, if the ceiling is already broken when the final smash is used, then it'll KO just fine. But it's really weird that the collision stays loaded this long, given how, when looking at other similar final smashes, they work just fine. You can see that Kazuya ignores the collision outright, and the ceiling only breaks after all is said and done. And if you're curious, Zoroark doesn't have anything weird either, though that's because it doesn't really pause the stage background anyways. I mean, dude, even Puff's final smash works as it should on this stage, and honestly, it might even be better here. Not that being better than before is saying much. Okay, that'll be all for today then. Here's another quick reminder to fill out my item ranking Google form. You rank the items based on how much you like them, and or how often you have them on when you play with items in the first place. It's basically a popularity contest. I want to make a fun little video about the results sometime in the future, probably next month or so, and I want to get as many results as possible because it's more fun that way. So fill it out if you've got the time. Otherwise, I don't have much else to say. It's fun to go back to just randomly talking about random stuff for a random amount of time. I do think I like the more structured formats a bit more, but it's nice that this is something I can fall back on, and I hope y'all still enjoy it too. But with that, I'd like to thank my patrons Burbo, Raighne, Sil700, and everyone else for their massive support. Stay casual, and I'll see y'all later.